Happy Monday, folks, and a treat for you today. You may be familiar with Patrick Bet David and his Valuetainment kind of network. Fantastic guys. Well, they have a new channel, The Unusual Suspects, and it's super. Great team. And I got to go on their show the other day and we had a fantastic chat, only around 20 minutes. But I go through, I think, one of my best summaries. I'm pretty sure my best summary of the hate speech laws that are coming, of the WHO pandemic treaty and the other crazy stuff relating to that, and also the farmer protests and what's happening in Ireland. But again, great discussion. The team asked me questions and it was really a great experience. So I think you'll really enjoy it. So please do subscribe to their channel, Unusual Suspects, for some more fun. Here we go.
All right, guys, so next up, we have a very special, brand new unusual suspect. He's all the way from Ireland. We're getting serious when we go over the pond. He's a biochemical engineer. He's a complex problem-solving technologist, World War II and psychology buff. His pronouns are my favorite. Brandon, you're gonna like this. Are we the people? Ladies and gentlemen, Ivor Cummings. Ivor, thanks for joining us, brother.
Oh, delighted to be here, Vincent. Great stuff.
How about that? And I think we spoke before this. Your accent, just like Conor McGregor's, I could listen to you guys talk. I go for hours. You could bash my family. You could talk about my mother. It wouldn't bother me because I love that accent so much.
Yeah, I hear that quite a lot. It's obviously nothing special here, but abroad seems to be a useful asset.
Yeah. So Ivor, I'd like to get right into it. So the Irish government, a couple months ago, I think it was December, Ivor, and correct me if I'm wrong, they were pressing forward with a new law to criminalize hate speech following the stabbings of Dubliners, including the 3 school children by the Algerian resident of the country that caused the riots. As drafted, the law would allow police near blanket authority to search and possibly find materials that are hateful, rifling through your text messages, emails, and personal effects to find prosecutable content. And the most striking for the hate speech bill was legislation that offers no definition of what hate entails. Can you please, Ivor, let us know what's going on, what's the status of this situation, and what's going on in Ireland?
Yeah, sure thing. So the hate speech bill really was bubbling up back in 22. It's a couple of years on the way. And now it's being pushed forward by our Justice Minister, who's pretty much as globalist shill puppet as you can get. Most of us believe in any case. So it was written in such a way that it's just astonishing. And our former Attorney General got up in the Irish Parliament and said the same things as I'm saying. He said there is no proper definition, of what really hateful is, and you cannot have a law where it's not even exactly clear what the thing you're prosecuting is. But they overruled them, they overruled everyone. So last year, they brought it through the Irish Parliament. There's kind of 2 houses. It first goes through the Parliament, the Dáil, and then it goes to the senators. And it went through the Dáil, no problem, because our bunch of lackeys in politics, they don't read anything. They just get told, yeah, we want to pass this, and they do it. But then when it came to the Senate as such, a lot of public outcry began to bubble up. And it wasn't that huge at first, in Ireland. But then Elon Musk took up the case, and Michael Schellenberger, and I think Jordan Peterson. So we got a lot of help from across the pond. And it got so big, they then delayed it and didn't try to go to the Senate with it because they realized, this is in danger now of not getting through. So that's kind of what happened. And the interesting thing was, for a couple of months, there was radio silence. And they simply said, we're busy. We're going to do it next year. But they were just kicking the can because things were a bit hot. The peasants were more aware and were revolting. Yeah. So that was where it was until the tragic stabbing. And I believe it was actually a migrant family who were mainly affected by the stabbing. But when there were riots, and the riots, just so everyone knows, there was no far right or racism, really. There was such tension building up over the mass migration that our puppet politicians have been bringing in on behalf of the UN and, WEF. There was so much tension that when this happened, a lot of kind of mobs of young people kind of rioted and smashed windows, and they had the excuse that, the public are not happy. But the media all said far right, racists, but it wasn't really. But the really funny thing, I'll close on this before we get into the details of the bill. The really funny thing was the government saw all this happening, all of the public anger and the rioting, and they actually tried to twist it and said, we need this hate speech bill in. It's just astonishing.
Ivor, what was the riots the main? So you said that this was trying to come up for a while, that they're trying to implement this hate speech. What was their initial like? How does that just come out of nowhere? Where they're like, all right, we got to stop everybody from saying anything negative about anything. Is it to protect the politicians? Is it what was the initial goal? And I mean, like you said, the rioting triggered it even more, because that's when I first heard about it. But what's their end game? What's the goal?
Well, yeah, no, that's the question. So the stated goal is, as always with everything, including 15-minute cities and getting rid of meat, it's always a beautiful, lovely, happy, save everyone and keep everyone safe excuse. But it's nonsense. So the excuse is, we need to update our hate speech laws. Now, we have a 1989 hate act that can be used to prosecute people if true hate is used and a crime is committed or somebody is hurt. And that has worked perfectly with plenty of convictions over the last, 20, 30, 40 years. And I read it and it's perfect still. But what they're saying is, no, it's not good enough. It doesn't cover the modern internet era. And what they've written now is that they want to put in protected characteristic people. These people need special protection from their feelings being hurt, basically. And they put race, color, nationality, religion, national or ethnic origin, descent, gender, sex characteristics, sexual orientation, and disability. Jeez. So you'll notice they really want to shoehorn in, I think, all the sex stuff, the transgender, and all of the push that we've seen in the last few years explode. There are no men and women. There is no black and white. Everything is topsy-turvy. So I view it as all of the stuff that they're pushing, all the woke stuff, you might call it, all of that serves to undermine society, take away tradition, take away history, take away the certainties people have, make everything all kind of more blurred. And it just aids in all the other strategies of UN and Agenda 2030. It just weakens the population and it makes people scared to speak up, because most ordinary people are not sure what to make of all this nonsense. So I think the hate speech law is really to support all the nonsense that we're seeing coming out, that they want pushed through into schools and everywhere. And it's also a chilling effect. And this is a key one that the Attorney General also mentioned, that it's written in such a way that it's literally Minority Report. You are guilty until proven innocent in this wording. Yeah. I mean, the specifics we can get into, but basically a relatively low-level court based on one person complaining and a Irish policeman taking up the problem can go into your house and take, it's written, everything, computers, anyone in the house can be searched, anything to be taken for a period as necessary. And if you have anything under their non-defined hatefulness, you are assumed that you would share that and cause trouble with it and cause hurt, unless you can prove it was only for your own use.
Oh my God. That is Minority Report in a nutshell. It's like, listen, I didn't murder anybody, but we looked into the future and we saw that you were going to do this. So we have to put you in that cryogenic state. So Ivor, I mean, this is insane. Besides the text and the going in your house and all that stuff, it seems to me that, you mentioned this with the hate speech and the LGBTQ push, and it's not just a local thing for United States. This is a global agenda. They're not messing around. You're obviously dealing with it. It doesn't, thank God for Elon Musk giving us Twitter. So they're running out of options to keep us silent. So I think these type of bills shut up the people on a lesser level, because they can't stop the Elon Musk, as we see every single day. He smokes marijuana. He's doing cocaine. He's insane. Allegedly, yeah, they're trying to ruin him. So I think this goes beyond just like a national thing. And speaking with you, it seems like they are trying to lock down everybody, and it's literally like we keep hearing this new world order. That's the new world order. That's what I think that they're trying to. Brandon, you got to ask a question, Ivor.
Yeah, Ivor, how's it going? So, would you say that Europe and Ireland, places like that, would be a canary in the coal mine for the U.S.? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that Europe implemented a lot of laws like this in the last few years. Is that correct?
Absolutely, Brendan, and it's a crucial point. Europe is much easier to bring in all this nonsense because, the WHO, the UN, they're all centered around Switzerland. They've a lot of influence, and they've already very much corrupted European politicians. During COVID, we saw Macron in France and the Austrian chancellor. They came out with absolute madness in COVID. And our own prime minister, Leo Varadkar, he shot up very young, gay guy out of nowhere, and suddenly he's the prime minister of the country a good few years ago. But he was so special that out of the 4,000 young global leaders that since 1991, the World Economic Forum has groomed for high positions to roll out the agenda. It's not even a secret.
Yep.
Leo Varadkar, our prime minister, was brought on stage with Klaus Schwab and personally recognized on stage with the big man. Yeah. So he's been very instrumental in what's going on in Ireland. And just the final thing, Brendan, really quick. Europe, yes, is easier to conquer than the US because you've got, your constitution, free speech, you have guns,
yes.
You've got a lot of tension, right? So US is a bit harder in spite of Biden's efforts. But Ireland within Europe is no question, it's a prototyping facility because Ireland is highly globalized. 60% of our GDP is biotech and pharma. We had the longest lockdowns in Europe. So Ireland is really this kind of nest egg to start growing the new dystopia, unfortunately.
So Ivor, hi, I'm Erin Elmore. How are you? So what you're saying basically is reminding me of what's going on in Spain. And it seems like the only free place left in Europe is under Viktor Orban, right? In Hungary. Am I right with that?
I think you're right, yeah.
So absolutely right. So
yeah.
How are they protected, and do they have influence to sort of change the narrative in Europe to push for more freedom, more conservative ideals? Because everything you're saying sounds like there's no due process, it's no freedom of speech. You are absolutely becoming controlled and socialist.
Yeah, and ironically, socialists, I'll get to Orban in a moment, but you're absolutely right. I was speaking to a professor who invented quantitative easing, Professor Richard Werner, and he knew a lot more than finance, I found out, because he said that the European model with the commission that's unelected and immune from prosecution, and then we have a European Parliament, that's the EU. But essentially, the European Parliament doesn't really have any power. It's the unelected commission that sends down the laws and the strategies. And that's an exact carbon copy of the Soviet era. So you had actually a parliament in Soviet era, and then you had the Politburo, the kind of party. That's the equivalent of the European Commission. So he said historians have written about this. Europe, since the late 90s, has imported the Soviet system. So absolutely, it's a problem. Orban, the issue is they are gunning for him remorselessly. So he's right-wing, he's racist, he's transphobic, he's homophobic. He is everything bad. The reason he's still okay is just he has huge support in Hungary. And Hungary also remembers the horror of the communist era. So there's a tacit support for him because he's against Europe. And the Hungarians know Europe is a very, very dangerous thing. So that's his support. But Europe is ripping away finance, European supports. They're trying to punish him in every way they can, like they weaponized the dollar against Russia, same thing. So we'll have to see how he gets on.
Very thoughtful. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, Ivor. So, Ivor, and the second topic that we were going to talk about was the WHO, WHO, and their pandemic treaty. I saw one of your interviews about it, but I wanted you to expand a little bit on it to let the people know what's going on.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to play that clip. I was at an event yesterday and I interviewed Dr. Meryl Nass, who is an expert on all of this. She's been campaigning for years. So basically, I'll just do a mini rant on the WHO. So the World Health Organization, again, based in Geneva, unelected, tax exempt, full diplomatic immunity from prosecution, no matter what they do wrong. All of this is in their constitution. All of this is ring fenced. Now, you might ask, why would a health organization to help people's health make bloody sure that they've got immunity from prosecution written into their charter? But there you go. But at a big picture level, and we can't get into detail here, the WHO is simply part of the UN Agenda 2030, and the UN is being used as a vehicle connected intimately to the World Economic Forum. And the whole lot of that and many other organizations actually go back mainly to the 1950s and the Rockefeller Brothers Fund. So the Rockefellers were internationalists. They wanted a global world government. They put it on the record. There's no conspiracy theory. And they spent decades, and their descendants also, funding and organizing to create structures for a world government. And the UN largely is the model now for the new world government. Wow. So there's a long history there, and I can give you guys a link to share of a talk from a PhD who in 40 minutes explains the whole history. And when you watch it, all the weird stuff that's happening, it all clicks into place beautifully.
I'm not even joking. I'm definitely going to get that from you after this.
Yes.
We actually have the clip, Ivor, ready to go of Dr. Merrill J. Nass. Can you just give us a brief thing? What are we going to watch right now?
Right. So yesterday there was a great event. They actually managed to book in the Irish Parliament a room to present with around 6 speakers on the WHO pandemic treaty and the World Health Regulations. So they have 2 horses. Either horse will get them their dystopian outcome, but they have cleverly 2 horses. So if one fails, the other one might sneak through. So in the Irish Parliament, we had Andrew Bridgen from the MP from the UK, great guy. We had Dr. Merrill Nass, who's an expert in all of this. She was there speaking. And we had Tess Laurie and a few others, a lawyer who knows this inside out. So I went there, got interviews, but the one I grabbed, especially when I knew I was on this show, I said, I want to get you, Merrill, and do a short summary of what this is about. And I think she did a good job in a couple of minutes. So
so let's play that clip, Cal. Here we go. Dr. Nass.
What has happened is that the WHO has created 2 documents or instruments. One is a treaty. One is massively amended international health regulations that already exist but are going to be changed tremendously. And each of these documents will be governing documents. So they won't just make recommendations, but the WHO will be able to give nations orders that they will be required to obey. What do these documents do? Allegedly, they're going to prevent pandemics in the future or ameliorate them when they occur. What in fact they do is the opposite. They actually direct nations to go out and find potential pandemic pathogens, study them, so that every nation in the world is supposed to create sequencing laboratories where they will decode the sequence of potential pandemic agents or biological warfare agents, share them with the WHO and with other nations, and upload the sequences online so that any hacker can get them. The other things these 2 documents want to do, and they overlap, so both documents suggest doing these things, is they want nations to perform surveillance of their citizens' speech, particularly in social media, and to censor them when they spread misinformation about health. Or in other words, information that does not go along with the WHO narrative. They also specifically have crossed out human rights in the amendments to the health regulations and have said in another article that when it's necessary, human rights can be ignored. So for some reason, they want to be able to trample on human rights. They want the opportunity to clamp down, imposing quarantines, vaccine mandates, closing borders, forcing medical examinations and treatments in light of any future pandemic. Finally, these documents demand that nations set up a legal regimen, in other words, pass laws so that drugs and vaccines that have not been licensed, that may not have even been tested in people, can be developed in 100 days and then rushed out to the entire population with no liability for the manufacturers, the nations, and the WHO.
And they deny it affects sovereignty. But the reality is the words non-binding were removed and the word shall was put in a lot of times. So maybe
168 times the word shall was added to the amended international health regulations. Shall in an international treaty means you must obey.
Yes.
Means mandatory.
Oh my! If that doesn't scare that, and the first thing that you said that really bothered me, Ivor, was a non-elected group of people that are literally making decisions for the rest of us, and the fact that they said pandemic and sharing code, and it's like it's almost at the point where going back to the speech and what they don't want to hear, and when we get a little bit wild and people start talking and the people start wanting answers and stuff, whoops, another pandemic, which they have been warning us for how many years about pandemic 2, will just pop up. And I mean, the sequencing is out there, so whoever wants to do I like that she said a biological attack. It's so freaking obvious what they're doing.
Remember what the director of the WHO said at Davos about the disease X, that like he's talking about it as if he knows that's going to be a thing in the future.
Of course,
Right.
and China,
Predictive programming.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else is funny is that who runs the World Health Organization? It's not even a medical doctor. Tedros is not a medical doctor.
that is
the head of the
that is
WHO.
not good.
No, you're the World Health Organization.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It's like the WEF. It's like they have the audacity. I think they know what's best for people.
Oh,
yeah, well,
man.
it's a useful idiot.
Yeah.
On top of everything.
So Ivor, I have a couple minutes left. I would definitely want to hit the last topic, the farmers, the farmers of the European. I see what's happening with the Irish farmers. I mean, they're using climate to go after everybody to basically stop the production of real food. If I'm not mistaken, Ivor, they want you to eat, like you talked about the smart cities, Ivor. They want you to eat the processed foods that come from their corporate friends, their corporate companies, and we see what's happening. I love the fact that the people in Europe. I saw videos in France where these farmers are literally going to all these Congress and they're throwing manure and crap everywhere.
Hay bales down.
Yeah.
Hay bales everywhere, and I absolutely love it. There was an article, I believe, in the Financial Times last year where Irish farmers were pressured to slaughter up to 200,000 cows to meet climate goals. So please, I don't know if it happened or not, but Ivor, please, we have a couple minutes left. I want to know what the hell is going on, and do they have the power to stop this from happening? Because it seems like the evil is going full steam ahead.
Yeah, well, wow, it's a tough one, but it's like everything else that's going on. There's a growing awakening, hence their kind of urgency to get in censorship laws and other laws, because they are very aware after COVID that a lot of people are waking up. So they're racing to cut us off at the pass. But that said, the only hope is grassroots, because most of our politicians now are either just totally stupid or they are actually useful idiots on behalf of globalism. I mean, that's just the way it is. So in Ireland, the 200,000 cows thing, that was in a department, an official political department report, and it got leaked. So it wasn't actually that they told them. That's my understanding.
Yeah.
But it was leaked, and that was clearly what they were planning and what they wanted. And our Minister for Environment and Energy, crazy combo, he's the ultimate useful idiot.
Yeah.
I mean, he is literally, by my standard, he's compromised intelligence. I don't want to use a nasty word. It's crazy. So how did he get there into the government? Like I told you about our prime minister, and on stage. Well, this guy's been over in Davos as well. His party, the Green Party, has 2 or 3% of the vote in Ireland. And he's holding one of the most important ministerial positions in the country. So again, the useful idiots are brought up into positions. So the farmers in Ireland are pushing back. All over Europe, Netherlands is nitrogen they're using. But just to get to why they're doing it, it just fits in with everything else, with the trans, with everything else, all fits into a nice corporate strategic set of goals. It's a program. And yes, the goal is you do not want self-sufficiency in local national countries, sovereign countries. You want to just leech that away steadily with the excuse of climate. And we don't have time to get into climate, but the science there is is arguably worse than the COVID science. And over time, then take away all that and make people dependent on corporate ultra processed food. And that will also fit in nicely with 15-minute city concepts. So everything dovetails together. So people are kind of confused and saying, yeah, a lot of crazy stuff is going on, but it seems like to be all over the place. They don't understand everything fits together beautifully. And that video I mentioned really helps too.
Do you think so? Just really fast, because we have to wrap it up. But are the farmers going to succeed, Ivor? Because I mean, I hope to God that they do. Do you feel in your heart of hearts that this is going to be a positive outcome for them?
Yeah, I think there's some very good signs, including some subtle ones. They were offered money and a deferral of these costs that are crippling them. And they usually take the money and then they disband and they come back later and they're complaining again. This time, generally, they didn't take the money. Wow. And that for me means they know this is the end game. That if they get a concession and they leave, you know, this is end game stuff. So they understand that. So I'd say they have a very good chance of changing the game. They need the public support. I always say to people on this whole globalist dystopian hurtling train that we're on, right? We're all in it together. I always say we're riding down the razor's edge. They're all heading to cut us off at the pass with censorship laws and removing our energy infrastructure and removing our farming, getting as much out as they can. And the awareness is growing and we are a real threat to them. But I'd say it's on the razor's edge. It's all to play for.
Wow. Well, Ivor, thank you so much for being on The Unusuals. You know what? I hope maybe once he's done fighting, Conor McGregor could run for office and start beating the shit out of all these people that are making all these stupid decisions. But thank you so much, Ivor. God bless you, brother. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
Great meeting you guys. Thanks a lot. Bye now. So that'll do it, folks. I have the link down below if you could subscribe to The Unusual Suspects. It's a great team, and as you can see, they're really, really awake and with it. And of course, as always, huge thanks to my Patreon, PayPal supporters, and anyone else who can help, you know, the mission to get out accurate information, real information, and counter the torrent of nonsense from the legacy media, which at this stage has just gone totally out of control, as I'm sure you'll agree. So for our children, grandchildren, for the future of the world, we need people to be getting out the real messages on what actually is going on reality in the world today. So thank you.